All right, really quick update of I've started two more books while I'm also reading through Sailing to Sarantium. I do want to I do like reading this way where instead of binging through a book or a series, I like to be able to break things up. Whether they're just breaking it up throughout the day and reading a little bit of each, or breaking up a series where I finish one entry and leave it for a few weeks or leave it for a month and then come back to it. I actually prefer that because then I can kind of get excited for the next one. But sometimes you just gotta push through. So, anyway, a couple little thoughts on each of these. And yeah, I'm going to try to get to all of these a little bit every day and change my reading habits a little bit and just see how maybe the next month or two goes with this. Because a lot of the times I'll just do one book and I'll rush through it and I'll feel like I didn't let it simmer long enough because I'll sit for a 3 hour stint on a weekend and crush a whole bunch of pages. And sometimes it just helps, like it's in the episodic format as we're watching a TV show. Sometimes going through and having that week to be forced to sit and wait, as we used to do, really actually improves the enjoyment of it and the excitement and the anticipation and the conflict. And I want to make sure I'm doing that more instead of just rushing through a lot of these really fantastic books. I'm also going to make sure, a little bit I've had like audiobook with book in hand, cranked up the audiobook and even though sometimes that's okay, some books really get shortchanged through that sort of thing. I can't imagine doing that through Malazan. I would have missed so much. I think by doing that with this last Dark Tower, the Wastelands, I didn't let the moments simmer properly. So I mean, in general, I dislike doing audiobook because I so often kind of my retention goes down, but also I'm not just having a natural uh, experience. So I think I'm going to try to juggle a few books and overlap them and, do that sort of thing. This first one, obviously, I've talked about it a couple times, mentioned it. I'm just over halfway now. Really amazing prologue. I think I'm going to do a full review on it either when I finish this one or when I finish its sequel, the duology. I really, really love it. Man, the prologue starts with so many amazing characters, like so many amazing points of view. And I love how Guy Gabriel Cage just jumps to even minor characters sometimes get a page or two. Um, and it's in this like Constantinople type place called Sarantium. And just this it has horse races and it has the emperors. It just feels so much of that time. Feels like such a great historical fiction. We go to this Crispin character who he. Oh, I'm just looking at that. Yeah, he's a mosaicist and he lives super far away from what happens in the prologue. He's more in the Roman sort of province parallel. And anyway, half of the book is him getting acquired through this letter. And, there's lots of interesting little elements to it, but I think people should read it. I love it so much so far, and I don't want to rush it. Half the book is like just getting to the big city. But man, something that's so amazing is it seems so grounded. It seems like something like Ken Follett would write if he wrote about this era. Like our main character Crispin kind of reminds me of Tom Builder, and uh, it's very grounded in a lot of ways. But then its little turn into the fantastical is just so well done and subtle. And I'll leave it for the spoiler review section to talk about how it does it, but uh, it, it it's in the way that the ancient people of our day, they really interfaced with their spiritualism in very odd ways. Like, think of these pagan temples and their idols, and we have that in this book, same sort of mindset, you would think. uh but then it's some little elements regarding that where we go into the fantastical, and it causes people to really not know what to think about their own reality and their own faith and their own perspective. And it's very interesting that that's not like pushed to the center for this whole book, but it makes its little appearances there, and it's something that we always have to account for in this book, even though there's just so many things going on. And I'm over halfway through, and I really still don't know where, like, what kind of book this is, in the sense that I have no idea really where we are going. And I felt the same way in the Lines of Al Rasan, but the moment-to-moment sections and chapters have just been so entertaining and great, and it's just so fantastic. I haven't had a writer that has caught me on a pound for pound, sentence by sentence, page by page sort of way since Steven Erikson. Really, really, really great. Like, some people write these great books. I know Brandon Sanderson, a lot of people read his books, and it could be a little bit of a slog for some of the first parts, but then the endings are just fantastic, and you kind of see, things are foreshadowed, and you're just excited for that to come to a head. In this, I don't even know what is foreshadowed, but I'm sure by the end it will be incredible. And I felt the same way in The Lions of Al Rasan, where I didn't really know where it was going, but it was so worth it. Next thing, really quick, I started Lord Fowl's Bane. I'm 50 pages in. What an interesting character this is. It really kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. There will be a lot to talk about. This main character, I used to be so scared of leprosy. I don't know how, like, as a young kid, I don't know where it got into my mind, but I was scared of that, and I was scared of childbirth. I know where that fear came from. That came from the watching Robin Hood, the Kevin Costner one, and the ladies giving birth in Sherwood Forest. I watched that, and I saw that at like 4 years old and went, oh, that's horrifying. And anyway, this guy has leprosy, and it's almost like this Job sort of story, where it has, how in the Job story, it's like they're having this wager about Job. If you could, do everything you want to him, but he won't, like, blaspheme against me or whatever. This Thomas Covenant, he has this amazing life. I mean, it's not super, he's not like super wealthy or super whatever, but like he has a bestseller. He's living a comfortable life, a content life. He has all these ideas for more books, and then he contracts, he gets leprosy, and his life is just falling apart. And thinking of the Job parallel, where Job, maybe, he was bitter and stuff, but he didn't, like, he stayed true or whatever. And Thomas Covenant in this book has every reason to be so bitter, and he leans into that, because better to be bitter than to be sad and just depressed, and that's a way of him feeling some sense of control. I don't know what kind of character this is going to be, but he does remind me of a lot of main characters that are, a part of 1800s sort of classics. I think of Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. Really, really interesting. A lot of maybe modern readers, a lot of us want someone we can really empathize with and love all of their conclusions and their I don't know, their reactions and everything, and we can cheer with them. And a lot of old books, in my opinion, we do get some of those things, but then we do get a lot of books where the main character is actually kind of loathsome, and it's almost more of a cautionary tale as we're watching their terrible decisions. Think of who is it, Rodian from Crime and Punishment, builds this character up and has done something totally terrible and is trying to get away from it, and is I think maybe this Thomas Covenant could be a similar type character. Um, Very, very interesting. Like Captain Ahab is a flawed character in this way, and we're not like cheering for them. We're kind of going, man, there's so much that he could do, rather than kind of circling himself down into a hole. Anyway, interesting. He enters this fantasy world where he thinks he's kind of dreaming, and people, this first person that has seen him kind of sees him as the coming of this prophetic sort of figure. And I wonder if he's going to be thinking everything's just a dream, and he's bitter and probably doesn't really care ultimately, but will play the game maybe a little bit. It has very much like a Satan character who is sending this guy, and this is the first early on in the book, but sending him on this with this message that in 70 years, they have 70 years to find this staff of law, to take this staff of law or whatever. There's a lot to it, and I just started it yesterday, so I might be forgetting some of the details. But it is interesting. I'm glad to get another character sort of that challenges you in that sort of way. Sometimes people will write those sorts of characters. Bad thing happens to character, and then the other character is bitter and terrible, and then they almost write it in a way where it's like, well, of course they are, and it gives them a reason to be that way. And I don't know if that's even explaining it. Like this guy does have a reason for being bitter, but I don't think it like praises him in his bitterness. I don't know. Let's move on. We'll see where that goes, but that's going to be another thing that I'm going to balance with it. The last one, just barely started, Wizard and Glass. I'm not going to rush through this one. I want to see how the stuff in book 3 ended. I didn't think I was going to grab it quite so quickly. It's been like 3 days. I was a little bit salty because of the ending, and I thought I wanted to just get a clean, amazing ending, like the Gunslinger and the Drawing of the Three had a really great final paragraph or two, and I was looking forward to that, and it just didn't happen, so I was a little bit bugged about that. And I read through it a little bit too fast, so I'm going to let each of these books, which all are kind of heavy books. I was thinking, do I put in Red Shirts instead? Do I put in the next Dungeon Crawler Carl? Nope, I'm just going to challenge myself with a few heavy books and go slow with each of them. And I imagine I will be finished Sailing to Sarantium this week. And then maybe Thomas Covenant the next, but I imagine I'm going to spend a few weeks plugging through Wizard and Glass, unless it just gets to the point where I just want to rush through it. Sometimes the last 300 pages is just so exciting in some of these books that you just rush through it in a day or two. So anyway, good to check in, and that's how things will, I think that's how things will go the next few weeks. I do have things in May I'm looking forward to, like the new Guy Gavriel Kay book, The Devils. After finishing Wizard and Glass, I would like to go to Salem's Lot. And again, things like Roger Zelazny's Lord of Light. I would like to keep going in the Amber series, but I do kind of want to see what he can do with the little standalone, and this is well regarded. And I've mentioned things like Ursula K. Le Guin, and I want to get some fun things in, like the City Watch from Discworld. Again, stuff like Red Shirts. Keep going with Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm even looking up at part 2 of the Book of the New Sun. Which is it? Claw of the Conciliator. I figured I'd give that maybe a shot. Now that I maybe know a little bit more what to expect with that, and see how it goes. So anyway, talk to you guys soon.